Welcome to the news on Zodiak with me, Sibongile Ziambo. The headlines at this hour. Parliament approves 19.9 billion kwacha loan for a water supply project with Southern Region Water Board. China commits 5 billion kwacha grant towards the 2020-2021 national budget. Education Ministry withdraws notice on the award of 8 contracts worth 1.8 billion kwacha under MISIP 2. And across the borders, Tanzania buries Magufuli in hometown. I am Sibongile Ziambo. Thank you for joining me. Members of Parliament have authorized Southern Region Water Board to borrow 19.9 billion kwacha for provision of piped water for residents of Liwonde, Balaka and Mangochi. Finance Minister Felix Mluso says residents in these areas require about 18 million liters of water per day, but only 2.3 million liters is made available, a situation which leaves the said areas dry often. The project, which will be implemented in 5 phases, is expected to commence this April.
Parliament has approved the Southern Region in a water board loan authorization. This is a bill authorizing us to borrow 26.5 million euros from the European Investment Bank. And this is to bring water to the towns of Liwonde and Balaka, but also to support the water project in Mangochi. And also, in addition to that, it is also to enable us to set up a power generation plant in Zomba, which will be generating about 3/4 of a megawatt to support Southern Region Water Board in terms of the energy which they require to pump water, for their operations. So this bill, as I say, is authorizing us that we should borrow that money for us, to do the work that is required to bring the water to these 2, towns, and indeed extending to Mangochi.
Meanwhile, as the House adjourns, Sandai, leader of opposition Konda Nankuma, has called on government to find means of taming the appetite for borrowing in a quest to ease economic burden for the country. Mr. Nankuma said this in his warning speech for the media budget review meeting, saying currently the debt is at 4.8 trillion kwacha. Finance Minister Felix Mluso says plans are already in place to reduce the debt. Andrew Viano has filed this report.
After 5 weeks of media budget review, members of Parliament concluded their meeting today, Friday. Speaking in his concluding remarks, the leader of opposition in Parliament, Konda Nankuma, has warned President Lazarus Chakwera and his Tonse alliance government to tame appetite for borrowing, which he said in turn will choke the country's economy. Nankuma cited that since assumption of power, Tonse has borrowed over 600 billion kwacha, a thing which is not healthy for the economy.
This government should try as much as possible to live within the means, to live within the budget, so that the economy of Malawi should not slide back to the lowest level.
But in response, the Finance Minister Felix Mluso said in the upcoming budget, government has put in place sound financial plan that will see loan repayment and reduction of borrowing.
We are working on measures to find means of how we should be retiring this huge debt that we have. So in our next budget, as from July 2021, we'll be coming up with specific measures that we will have put in place for us to be able to address reducing this debt.
In this sitting, Parliament, among others, passed a revised budget of 2.3 trillion kwacha that will finance government operations in the next 3 months. Members of Parliament are expected to meet again in May for another budget meeting.
And staying on national budget, the Chinese government has committed a 5 billion kwacha grant towards Malawi's 2020-2021 national budget. Chinese ambassador to Malawi, Li Yonghang, says a big economy China will continue assisting the country with focus on projects under Vision 2063. Finance Minister Felix Mlusu says the government intends to be using resources realized on projects that require immediate address and of paramount priority. We have this report for by Western Guda.
On Friday in Lilongwe, the Malawi government got a financial boost as China presented a 5 billion kwacha grant towards some projects in the 2020-2021 national budget. When asked on projects the funds will be channeled to, Finance Minister Felix Mlusu says Malawi will be using its resources from outside and within on projects that are of urgent need. Mlusu says in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is need for China and Malawi to critically look at the projects, especially considering the COVID-19, which is ravaging the global economy.
We are also appealing to some of our cooperating partners to help us to respond to the impact. The resources that we can secure ourselves, we can manage ourselves. The resources from our cooperating partners, all those we are applying them depending on the need.
Chinese ambassador to Malawi, Liu Hongyang, says as a big economy, China will continue assisting Malawi with focus on projects and strategies in the Vision 2063.
We are ready to engage in the discussions of how and where we are going to use the fund. But let me say, we are not going to be absent in developing Malawi according to the Vision 2063.
China assists Malawi in the sectors of education, agriculture and commerce, among other sectors. Reporting for Zodiak, I am Western Guta.
Away from the budget, Minister of Mining Rashid Gafar has contradicted his officials on facts regarding the export of a 25-ton rock which was impounded in Rumpi from 2 Chinese nationals and a Malawian in 2019. The minister has questioned the rationale behind the export of the rose quartz rock, which officials wanted to sell locally at the value of 2 million kwacha. While ministry officials claim the rock is a low-value mineral, the minister believes the value is more than 2 million kwacha. Otherwise, the 2 Chinese and Malawian would not have endeavored to export for sale on international markets such as a low value. More in this report by Western Guda.
Minister of Mining Rashid Gafar says in 2019, police and ministry officials in Rumpi intercepted the smuggling of a 25-ton rose quartz rock by 2 Chinese nationals and a Malawian. The Chinese were later fined 7 million kwacha each, while the Malawian was set free. 2 years down the line, the minister says he is baffled that someone would want to export a low-value rock, which the ministry's officials sold at 2 million kwacha. For this reason, Gafar says he has ordered cancellation of the sale so that proper search of the real value is established, as he suspects that the rock will cost more than 2 million kwacha.
We are trying to bring reforms. You know, the Vice President is heading the reforms program. The President has made this a standalone ministry to make sure that we are set up in all districts, especially hotspots where all these minerals are. So, you know, we are actually starting from scratch.
Regional geologist in the ministry, Samuel Kakuta, however, claimed that the rose quartz is an ordinary stone, hence the low value.
When we are valuing these ones, whether it is a gem and not a gem matters. Once it is a gem, the price is high, and a gem, the price is low. So when we set the price by that time, many people did not show interest because it would be considered as valueless somehow.
The minister was reacting to social media pictures of the rock, of which people speculated that the rock was stolen. Reporting for Zodiak, I am Western Guta.
Ballot papers for Tuesday by-elections are finally in from Dubai through the Kamuzu International Airport in Lilongwe. MEC Chairperson Dr. Chifundo Kachale, who led a team of officials that received the lecture materials, said everything is intact and set for the polls to be conducted in 7 constituencies and 2 wards. The materials have since been dispatched to districts in which the polls will be conducted. Winston Kaimira has filed this report.
Malawi Electoral Commission Chairperson Dr. Chifundo Kachale led a team of electoral stakeholders which received ballot papers at Kamuzu International Airport in Lilongwe. The electoral materials have been brought in from the United Arab Emirates, where they were printed. Dr. Kajale said so far, preparations for the by-election are on track.
We have no challenges. All the vehicles we need for the 9 different places where we're having by-elections are ready. So we have enough vehicles to actually send out the materials this afternoon as soon as the different stakeholders are able to verify what we have received, because that's part of the process. As we are unloading the packages, we have to verify that whatever was packed is what we have received, and make sure that everything we are dispatching is according to our specifications.
UTM Director of Elections Bright Kawaga said the party is satisfied with the electoral process.
As UTM, we are convinced that the ballot materials and the elections are going to be free and fair.
DPP's Kenny Sonda, who witnessed the arrival of the ballot papers for his party, also commended MEC for smooth preparations of the elections. The poll will be conducted in 7 constituencies and 2 wards. They include Chikwawa East, Nsanje North, Nsanje Central, Lilongwe Nsinja South, and Karonga Northwest. This is Winston Kaimira reporting for Zodiak.
Malawi has received a boost of 102,000 additional doses of AstraZeneca vaccine. The additional doses have come from the African Union, AU, to assist government administer the vaccine to Malawians. The country received 360,000 doses of AstraZeneca through the COVAX scheme. And you're watching news on Zodiac. We'll be right back shortly after the break. Stand by.
Celebrate a low-price family Easter with ShopRite. Get more for your Easter feast with our low prices. Get deals like 2-3 strips of bacon chocolate Easter egg marshmallows for just 749 kwacha 99 tamba, and 130 grams Socado assorted chocolate Easter eggs for only 1,299 kwacha 99 tamba. There is more low prices for your family this Easter, only at ShopRite. Lower prices you can trust always.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the top stories once again. Parliament approves a 19.9 billion kwacha loan for a water supply project by Southern Region Water Board. China commits 5 billion kwacha grant towards the 2020-2021 national budget. Education Ministry withdraws notice on the award of 8 contracts worth 1.8 billion kwacha under MESIP 2. In news from across the borders, Tanzania buries Magufuli in hometown. Moving on with the news, the Ministry of Education has withdrawn notification of its intention to award 8 contracts worth 1.8 billion kwacha for the procurement and construction of classroom blocks, pit latrines and other works under the Malawi Education Sector Improvement Project, MESIP 2. Spokesperson for the ministry, Chikondi Chimala, has confirmed the withdrawal, saying a procurement process was skipped where the notification was released before finalizing procurement processes. The notice was floated in the local media on March 19. The Greenbelt Authority has resorted to only develop areas where farmers have shown interest to venture into rice irrigation farming amid protests from some farmers over compensation for a 30 billion kwacha irrigation scheme in Karonga. Acting Chief Executive Officer for the authority, Mr. Amon Mluwila, told Zodiak Thursday that they intend to establish one agro-processing facility to increase value addition. Construction of the rice irrigation scheme is expected to commence in May this year. Adam Zunalinge filed this report.
Construction of Ntola Ilola Ngosi irrigation scheme in Kalonga, which covers 1,000 hectares of irrigable land, will start in May this year. Construction of the rice irrigation scheme has delayed to start due to limited resources. Speaking after interacting with members of the Executive Committee in Kalonga on Thursday, Greenbelt Authority Chief Executive Officer Amon Mluwila said the $40 million project, equivalent to 30 billion Malawi kwacha, will include establishment of an agro-processing facility to increase value addition. Mr. Mluwira explained that for the time being, the authority will only develop the area where farmers have shown interest to venture into rice irrigation farming. On his part, Kalonga District Council Director of Planning and Development David Gondwe said the council will organize a meeting with chiefs and other stakeholders to resolve issues of compensation. Reporting for ZBS News, this is Adams Clement Undani.
In sports news, President Lazarus Chakwera has asked the corporate world to help the government in revamping the sports sector in the country with an aim of achieving positive results at the international level. Chakwera made the plea after laying a foundation stone at the construction site for the indoor sports complex adjacent to Bingu National Stadium in Lilongwe. Meanwhile, the president has officially named the complex after the late Griffin Saenda in honor of his contribution towards the growth of netball in the country. In news from across the borders, Tanzania's former President John Magufuli has been buried at his family home in the northwestern district of Chato. Mr. Magufuli died last week from what the authorities described as cardiac complications. The funeral, which was televised, was attended by family and top government officials led by new President Samia Suluhu Hassan. The late president's body was lowered to the grave at exactly 4:45 local time at his family hometown in Chato along the southern shores of Lake Victoria. The former commander-in-chief received a 21-guard salute as fighter jets flew past the graveyard. Mr. Magufuli, who was first elected in late 2015, is the first Tanzanian president to die while in office since independence more than 60 years ago. That's it for now. Let's take a look at the headlines before we leave you. Parliament approves 19.9 billion kwacha loan for a water supply project by Southern Region Water Board. China commits 5 billion kwacha grant towards the 2020-2021 national budget. Education Ministry withdraws notice on the award of 8 contracts worth 1.8 billion kwacha under MISIP 2. In news from across the borders, Tanzania buries Magufuli in hometown. Visit our website zodiacmalawi.com for more news. This is Sibongile Siambo. And if you're in the target groups for the first phase of COVID-19 vaccine, please go for a jab without fail. You could save your life and that of others. Bye for now.
Bungwe loendesa zisankho la Malawi Electoral Commission MEC